And around like 9 or 9:30, Travis, my buddy that I was staying with, calls me and he's like, or he texted me or something. He's like, well, what the heck, man? He's like, you didn't think to even close the gate? And then like, I just thought about it, my heart like kind of sank. Turns out like I let all these farmers' cows out. Oh, you already clapped.
And we're live, back on the Hunter Podcast. Technical difficulties this morning. Man, YouTube to computers to what's going on with the world today? Technical glitches all over.
It's all good, man. We're just here to talk, and hopefully it records, and we'll have fun.
On the plus side, weather finally turned, right? Got some beautiful weather. Feels a little spring-like out.
Yeah, very spring-like. It probably was 70 degrees yesterday, I bet you. It's almost that today. Dude, I was this close to busting the motorcycle out yesterday.
You told me you were going to.
I was going to. I started it. I had it in the driveway. I was getting ready to like nice and easy head back down to grab my laptop and stuff. And that I haven't caught you up yesterday on what happened yesterday afternoon. We basically had a minor emergency. And so we had to rip down there quickly. And I was like, the bike was running. And was like, it's not the time. Also, my sunglasses I had left down.
You can't ride the bike.
I can't ride without sunglasses. I had Marty's like mini baby 80 aviators. I look like John Lennon, yeah, or like Elton John, whoever.
Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, yeah. You've had these gloves the whole time. It's the Rockies. But so it's still sitting in the garage, but it is beautiful out. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it started. That's
Does that mean we're too late for frost eating?
No, we probably got a couple freezing thaw cycles in here, I would think.
It's crazy. I swear, like
this coming week is gonna get a little cold, like high 50s.
Like 2 weeks ago, we were just like, man, we're never getting out of this winter. It will never end. Groundhog Day every day.
I try to from year to year, just like we look at analytics and STEM Road Media on a year to year basis. I try to like think about like what I was thinking last year at this time. I'm like, dude, was it this miserable? Like, was it this cold? Did it last this long? Or like, is this a new thing?
I mean, last year was really miserable because this is the week that we shut down. You know, the United States shut down from COVID.
That wasn't so much miserable as it was like,
what do we do?
High.
I mean, I don't
high stress
for the first couple of weeks. I don't even think I went outside. Like I was like in the house.
Yeah, we were just buying ammo and
yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, ammunition, guns, locking down.
It was bizarre. It was it
was St. Patrick's Day.
Really?
I think so. Next week.
That's next Wednesday for us here now, the 17th.
But yeah, I think it came in pretty fast like that.
Is that right? Is that the same time? Because we had to shut the Dairy Mart down on the 17th. Was our last day.
And that's when I shut the Stone Road office down, and we all started working remotely. A year ago. At some point, I think it was probably April when it got a little bit warmer. That's when I eventually just started pretty much living at the cabin in Kentucky and just fishing.
Yeah.
Working and fishing every day.
I remember that.
Yeah. At some point, you got to get outside the house. And I feel like that's where everybody is right now, especially because across the country, it's such a hard winter. I had guys, a couple old clients of mine from the wildlife consulting side sending me pictures of like they're finding dead bucks like everywhere on the property down south.
Like right now?
Yeah, and I assume it was from that ice storm, and because they got hammered with ice and cold. That's very uncommon for them. Uncommon here, extremely uncommon in Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana. And the one guy said, he's like, yeah, I walked the property yesterday, found 5 dead bucks that looked like they all died around the same time frame, fairly fresh, which was probably that ice storm a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And those deer, we talked about it, all those deer coming out of the rut.
What ice? Oh, this is the one where all the Texas.
I think we got snow or it even missed us. But this is the one that I had to go down to Kentucky last week and cut trees because they got hammered with ice. And then rains that flooded everything.
We didn't get it here.
It blew south of us. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that. But, weather's warming up. Colton and I are heading to a potential new lease in West Virginia today. Stomp around, maybe find a shed, huh? Huh?
Yeah. You guys might. Is there ag on that ground or it's just
cattle, I think. Pasture ground. There's no cattle on the property, but I think it's old cattle pasture.
Was there any notes about being able to do food plots on it?
No, so that's one I'm going to talk to them about today, hopefully. It looks like a lot of those fields are actually like old cattle pasture fields, so they're all overgrown. And last spring, right before COVID, they had done a select timber harvest, so I assume it's thick as hell.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So
cool.
I don't know. We're gonna stop around. If it's not the right place, we don't lease it.
Yeah,
no biggie.
I wish I could go with you guys. I think it'll be a good piece. I was looking at the surrounding area. It looks like a cool, just a giant horseshoe shaped piece of woods, and then it's got like more. It's just how the terrain is laying down there. It seems like almost
kind of just goes up and it kind of tops off.
It looks to me almost like a beautiful hybrid between like Kentucky and Ohio type of ground.
Yeah, not as steep as Kentucky, a little bit more open like Ohio. Yeah, I think it'll be good. I mean, I'm excited to get down there. Cool thing down there, first of all, it's 50 minutes from the office, which, you know, to be able to hunt another state, it's probably a little closer than our Ohio lease, but now you got Pennsylvania, Ohio, and potentially West Virginia all within, hey, like, let's just go hunt this morning.
Yeah.
Or at least in my head, I like to think that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Jared's going to work. I'll sit the stand. I'll do it. Don't worry.
I'll hold down the fort. Dude, speaking of finding sheds, my dad found a couple sheds off of that.
I know you sent me the pictures.
And what's really cool is, and I've said this I think before, and it's just so it's more and more true the more that we find these things is, he found 3 sheds. He's walked a better portion of our property probably at this point and hasn't found a whole lot. He found 3 sheds.
There's Bob.
Yeah, here you go. Within like 50 to 100 yards of like the food source that I've got there. It's
So did he find those in the field or like in the...
One of them he found in the food plot. It's just...
That's a big deer. You think that's a 3-year-old?
I do.
So next year...
That's a tall tine rascal right there.
The question then becomes, what do you do next year?
What's the question?
You kill him?
Kill him, yeah. He's 4 years old.
Because I think 2 or 3 years ago, you probably would have tried to let him go another year.
Yeah, it depends. It's one of those ones where I'm not going to say I wouldn't shoot him because he is 4.
He's going to put mass on.
I think it's going to be a big deer next year. I bet that's a mid 140s 4-year-old 8-point next year. Tall tine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean he's one probably based on his tine length and just the way I feel about it. I bet that deer, if you let him get to 6 or 7, is pushing like a
mid 150s, high 150s 8. Yeah,
I bet that's like a pushing 170s 8-point.
Yeah, that's a toad. Well, that was cool that he found this. Was that his first walk, or has he been walking?
I think it's his second at least.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But we've only got we've got 2 really good, and they're both brassica plots.
Mm-hmm. That's where that was.
Yeah, it was right in it. And I actually, like I mentioned on the last podcast, that like 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point, I had gone and moved. I only have 2 cameras right now on the property, and I put some corn out too, but they're just on those brassica plots. And he pulled the camera that was on the brassica plot that he found these horns on, and that deer was still holding on my birthday, which was on the March 3rd.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so they've only been
like a week.
Yeah, they've only been on the ground for a couple days.
Well, we were talking this morning, you know, I've got a lot of stealth cell cams still running, mainly for turkey season, which, you know, let's not jump too far ahead, but man, I've got birds on camera, especially in Kentucky. I'm talking like groups of 8 to 10. Yeah, I know you.
I don't care.
You hate turkeys. I enjoy thoroughly shooting them in the face.
Dude, I do too. I always get, not shooting in the face, I've got them on camera. I always get a bunch of toms on camera, and they're always like together.
Mm-hmm. Which is how they'll be this time of year.
Yeah, whether it's during deer season and stuff, but it's just weird. They're kind of like deer in that they break up and they just do different stuff by the time the season
later.
finally
Well,
gets
and
here.
especially when you talk about Ohio and Pennsylvania, our seasons are late, and it's really hard to kill birds. I mean, you can. Opening weekend's kind of your best shot at them.
Ohio is usually typically a week earlier.
Yeah,
than Pennsylvania.
Kentucky's multiple weeks. In fact, I can take the boys out on my birthday, which is April 3rd, to hunt. So, you know, that's 2 weeks away. Whereas here in Pennsylvania, we've got a month till I can pretty much kill a bird. More than a month, month and a half. You know,
I typically end up just like kicking around clover plots and looking for sheds. That's usually when I find most of my like deadheads.
Yeah, at that time
when I'm turkey hunting.
Well, I mean, the thing was with that, so I've got all those cameras running, that we've got a really good 2-year-old 10-point at that new Kentucky lease that we've seen a lot, and he showed up last night on that bottom brassica plot still holding, you know.
No sign of the big one down there?
No, I have to assume he either shed out or the moment I stopped feeding in there, he bailed. There's a lot of deer that have been moving through there.
A lot of people feeding down there, too.
Yep. Yep.
Well, at least one guy feeding a lot.
Well, I mean, on my Kentucky property, you know, I think I fed about 500 or 600 pounds of that 3-way cattle mix last week. That'll be the last time I feed until July, August.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just to get them to that green up time period, which we're a couple weeks away from.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, you know, they'll eat it. But I mean, whatever they're getting in the native browse is way better than whatever I can feed them.
Sure.
So that was kind of my last effort of just like, hey, here it is, hold them over. And I've seen a decrease in the amount of deer on those feeders even since, probably because it's warmed up and they're not as stressed out as they were 2 weeks ago when that stuff was rolling through.
Railing a little bit.
Yeah. So, but, you know, there's still bucks holding. You know, hopefully Colton and I stumble upon something in West Virginia that makes us say, yep, we're going to lease this bad boy.
I'm glad you guys are still going. That makes me feel better.
We'll let you know.
Cool.
We'll let you hunt there.
How big is it?
A little over 200.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited. We can get feeders down there. Same deal.
Taking bikes or the machine? My dad got the Ranger fixed, by the way.
Yeah, we'll hoof it today, just some first time.
We
But
just threw a belt is what
is that what it was?
Yeah, I could hear it slapping around.
It will be perfect for the road bikes, for sure. Well, then again, I mean, until we see it, I don't know how steep it's going to be. But my instinct is take the park down below, take those bikes, ride up on these ridges, and that's probably where our stands are going to be.
Yeah.
There is a pond and kind of a couple low indentations there that look pretty thick. Some funnels maybe coming off of those ridges, but yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of see what that is, and then let's say the 11th. The 11th. So about 2 weeks till our Illinois, Kansas shed hunting trip.
Yep, it's coming.
Book the flights, and then to St. Louis.
Figure out how to work this watch, man.
Yeah.
311th? It's 311th.
311th?
I said it first.
Usually that first number is the month.
Yeah.
Second's the
No,
day.
I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'll be fun. So what'd you say, 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
It'll be
It's
interesting.
late.
It is. It's a little bit late for us. In fact,
you know what? We've gone
we have
that same time frame before, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
been
think it was
like
decent.
I said.
That's when I found these.
Yeah,
that's when I found those giants.
2 years ago. Well, it's been 3 years since we've shed hunted, which is crazy because we were on a system of every year. And then 2 years ago, I don't know if it was work or what happened, we just didn't make it. Last year was coronavirus, didn't get down there. So it was like, hey, we got to go this year.
Hop in that office real quick, and there's a set of like real old sheds in there.
They're broken up. You'll know which ones.
Yeah, they're huge.
But yeah, so I mean, it'll be a little late. I imagine. I was looking at the forecast and stuff. It's been fairly warm since they had that. They had a real deep cold snap, per what we were talking about with all these deer dying and stuff.
Yep, that's that.
So yeah, I mean, I think that we're probably. Oh yeah.
There you go. Look at those things.
Just baseball bats.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'll hold these up. So this was the last time that this was right?
Yeah,
this
that was it. 2018.
Dude, there's no way that these are from that year, right?
No.
These are from the year prior?
Year before, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, not stained enough that it would be from multiple years back, but from the year prior. So 2017 season, I would assume that deer is from.
Yeah, a Goliath.
Now the crazy thing is we covered a lot of ground when we found that. Like that deer, in theory, should have lived in 2018 when we were hunting in that area. You and I found a couple spots that I hunted in 2019 in that area, thinking maybe this deer
just once, right? That's the year
once.
I didn't draw.
We had a camera there. I did have one buck that.
He was decent, yeah.
He resembled this, but like nowhere close to the size. Maybe same genes, potentially, just kickers and gnarly stuff everywhere.
That's a true giant. That's a mid 180s 8-point, I bet you.
100%. Yeah, I mean, who knows how long some of these kickers and stuff were? Who knows what else he had? These brows actually broke off. I remember we had a real thin piece that went up to about 10 inches.
It was about 8 or 10 inches.
Yeah, I mean, it was a giant. I mean, that mass is insane. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, the mass is.
Yeah.
I can't fit my fingers around that.
You know, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, Kansas private land will do that. No.
Yeah, that's on public.
That's public land.
This was, 100 yards from the
main parking area.
The parking area.
One of these was sitting on a rock, like a coiled snake.
Well, we had walked there. Like the most of it, and we finally got there, and we were just like taking a breather or whatever.
Yeah, we were walking the creek
I was talking
bottom.
to Steve, and I was like, dude, Steve, what is that? and I didn't actually think it was an antler at first. I just thought it was a bone.
Yeah.
I picked it up, and I was holding it for a second before I realized that it was an antler.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was, but I picked it up, and I was like, what in the... I was like, that's an antler.
It was probably this
That's an
one,
antler.
yeah.
And I started like freaking... I was like, look how big this thing is.
Yeah.
And then I think I called you guys over.
You came down off the hill, and then we all got together and we started to go up the ditch because we were at the parking area. We're at the main, and then we're standing there talking, and we're like, "Man, it'd be amazing to find like the match." And it was like,
it was right there.
There it is.
It was right
laying
there.
on a rock, like
Couldn't
right next to us.
believe it. So weird. So close to the like. How somebody not found them?
I mean, that's a deer that you catch on camera, especially on public. But you catch a deer like that on camera, and you live to kill that deer.
Yeah, that's probably would have been the biggest deer we've ever gotten on camera, I would think. Well, maybe not
super
scoring.
Super Freak would have been the only other one.
Probably
that I would
most
say.
massive, I would say. Aside from, well, yeah, dude, look, he's got more mass.
More mass than this deer, and this is a 180-inch deer.
Significantly. Look how much more mass he got.
I know.
That's
Monster,
wild,
man.
Yeah.
So Colton, potentially. There's potential.
That's what we're looking for.
We actually do have a couple. Number one, I know we talked about it on last week's podcast. You know, Pretty Boy is a deer that, man, I would just die to get hands on those sheds.
Yeah.
There's another, he's either a 10 or an 11. I don't know what you want to call him. That tall.
Yeah.
That dude is heavy.
Down on the bottom.
Down on the bottom. Both those bucks in the same area. That deer's heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
No chance that's the Kansas 10, is it?
It's possible.
I don't know if we got enough pictures of him.
Yeah, I don't think his formation looks a little bit different than the Kansas 10.
Mm-hmm. He was darker horn too.
Yeah. So I mean, so both those deer in the same bottom, and I mean those deer have been hanging tight. That camera's died now, so I don't know.
We're gonna try to replace or just.
We'll probably wait till July or August when we try to get back there for a stand hang and put cameras out.
I have to figure that one out. I really want to get a camera down there earlier in the season,
like in July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we could put one up,
or just whenever we go.
Put a stealth with an HME solar panel and just leave it.
I just want to have it running, man. The week before we get down there.
Yeah, that's been the Achilles heel, is that we set everything up perfect. By the time we get there, camera's dead.
That's so hard to get to. Also, yeah.
Well, let's do this. I'll take at least one camera and a solar panel in our pack, and that way, if we find a money spot, we'll just set it up, let it run. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got cameras that are full strength across the board that I put up in September. Haven't touched. Cool. That's the beauty of that.
I'm surprised that one ran as long as it did.
You gonna pay for the plan, or you want me?
I'll put it on the company card.
Good call.
I know how this works.
And a business write-off.
Yeah, your business.
Yeah, mine. Yeah. Well, we do have a camera there that's not running cellular that we're gonna check a card on up above on that saddle.
Yeah.
I bet there'll be some bucks on that.
Oh, I was so pissed off when I got down there and that camera wasn't working. Who was that?
Pat.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had jumped on the Rogue bike. I jumped on the Rogue and I was like blitzing down over this because we were rushed. Like, first of all, we drove.
Yeah.
This is in Kansas. This is what we're talking about.
Yep.
And this is this piece of public where I hunt Pretty Boy.
Am I tagged out at this point? Yeah.
No. This was day one. This is as soon as we got there.
Oh, really?
It was as soon as we got there. So we drove overnight, and we're like, okay, first things first.
Let's
try to go pull some cameras. We split up. You and your dad went down
to the flat
to pull that camera or something.
Did the same thing, scream at the camera because it wasn't working?
You did the same thing. That's right. And we only had the one Rogue bike, so I couldn't take Pat with me. So I was like, Pat, stay here. I'll be 20 minutes, half hour tops. I jammed I was wearing my muck boots, and I jammed a whole sleeve of Energizer batteries down in there because and I bragged to Pat. I was like, it's my storage spot. I never lose them here. I had like just like the things I thought that I would need to like get this camera back up and running. It was a Moultrie camera, I believe, and it has like the wire that runs between them, and we've had them out there forever. And so I was like, okay, I've got what I need to go down. I've got an SD card. I've got these batteries. I got my bike running. So I ripped down over there, and I had some issues with like riding along one of these fences, and like I got a flat tire on the bike at some point, and like it just kind of like was a disaster. I was so excited and adrenaline was going, but it was like, man, heart's going. I'm like seeing tunnel vision. I'm just like, dude, I gotta like I gotta calm down here. I'm just checking the trail camera.
Gotta breathe. Yeah.
And, so I got all the way down there. I'm walking like to the camera. I know where the camera's at. And I'm seeing like fresh sign. There's I'm like, oh yeah, big route. And I'm just looking for, because this is the first time that year we've been
even
there.
Touched that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just confirming that there's bucks in the area, and there are. And I got to the camera, and like the spot looks tore up. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. I'm gonna get this thing running. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I just couldn't get the camera to run. And maybe before that, maybe after that, I lost the batteries. I was like, how in the world? I was like, they were in my boot. Like, I don't understand how I lost. I was like, I need these batteries. I can't do anything with those batteries. And so I leave. I start walking back to where I had left the bike. I'm probably at 3/4 of a mile. Yeah, down in there. And a couple 100 yards of that was walking. Yeah. So I walk back out to the bike. I'm pushing the bike just a little bit, and I call Pat, and I'm like, dude, just disaster. I lost these batteries. I don't know. I can't do anything down here. Like, I'm coming back. I'm gonna get more batteries. And I'm like halfway back, and I feel in my back pocket, and there's all the I pulled the sleeve
out and put them in your back
pocket. And I just had so much stuff in all my pockets. Like, I don't know. I was just an idiot, and I found them. I was like, I found them. I'm going back. So I went back. And after that, I got the battery swapped out. I got the new card in there. I could not get that freaking modem to connect, which is the issue with those.
Thus the reason why we're not running those. And
those MV2s, man, they have an issue. Yeah. And they've got newer, better cameras since, but those ones specifically were a big problem.
Well, and we invested. This is when we started talking about cell cameras. There were options out there, right? But in terms of economical, and at least at the beginning, performance-wise, Moultrie and those MV1s were the way to go, right? And we invested heavily. I mean, when cell cameras came out, I mean, we bought a lot. Yeah. A lot. And then
we did.
Progressively.
It was cool. Yeah, I remember high grading. Not to throw you off your story. We remember starting with like, you're older than me. You might have started even before this, but like those Bushnell.
Yeah.
Whatever they're called, the HD cams or whatever.
Yeah, the trophy cams.
Oh, dude, those were like, for a long time, those were the ones. Those were
non-cellular, just running
straight
money.
Up the Bushnell. Yeah. Holding those. And from there, I remember like trading all of those in, or I sold them or something to buy. I sold them to, who did I sell those to? I sold them to somebody. I boxed them maybe on YouTube or on
they're probably still using them.
eBay or something. Probably. Those were great cameras. And so I used that to buy all of those original Moultries. And they're
with the MV1.
It's kind of funny. They're kind of like big blocks.
Oh, the big ones.
Yeah, the MV1s. It was the 888s and the MV1s.
Which that 888 was a great camera.
Those were great. Those were awesome. And that was my first exposure to cell cams. And then they did away with those shortly after and upgraded them to those MV2s, which, sorry, they don't work. Once they get disconnected, like
we were screwed.
Yeah, it just.
I mean, and we're talking. I bet between the group of us, we probably had 30 of those cameras. Yeah, at least. Yeah. And when we had to then force that, and we weren't forced into the upgrade, we were given the option of an upgrade. Go into the upgrade, and we're like, okay, cool. V2 betters, right? No. Not so much.
Equals better?
Negative. One plus one equals no, not better. Yeah. So it was like, now what do you do? And then eventually they phased out. That was this year's issue, is because we left some of those V1s running because the twos did not work. Yeah. They sit in a box in the corner because they didn't work. And then they cut the ones off because of the 3G network. Yeah. And so it's like, well, now what do we do?
Well, you know what? That's what happened, I think, ultimately we figured out, right? Was that camera was one of the ones that had been sunsetted or whatever.
Which, since now, we
pretty sure I ripped it off the tree, kicked it in the river, and then continued to use the camera. The camera is still great.
I was doing the same thing down at the flat with my dad. My dad's like, hey, there's a camera right there. And I'm like, yeah, it's not working.
Well, remember, I couldn't even get on the app to activate it because I didn't have servers down there. So yes. I had enough, I guess, to call you, but not to get the app.
So I had to activate, and it still didn't work.
Yeah, so you paid the money, and then it's like, oh, just kidding.
Yeah. And now we're at Stealth Cam Fusions, and that's the way we're going. Which
and they're coming out with new ones this year as well, right?
Yeah, man. We've got I think there's 3 or 4 different cell cams coming out. The cool thing is between Stealth Cam and Muddy, we can use both with our relationship with them and the Stealth Cam command app. But I mean, I ran, God, I don't know. I bet I had 20 cameras probably from Stealth and Muddy last year on the cell side. I mean, flawless, dude. Just ease, flawless, like really happy.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like I had to bust my head off of a tree.
And they work with the solar panels as well, right?
Yeah, and that's the game changer. I mean, dude, you and I buy lithium AA batteries in pallets pretty much, and that was the one flaw of past cameras is those things ate battery like it was going out of style.
Yeah.
And these new ones, throw in 8 AA lithiums. I still stick with the lithiums, but you put one of those HME or Stealth Cam solar panels on it for $50. And I mean, dude, I don't touch them.
Yeah.
Don't touch them.
Do you know what's coming out? Or can we talk about it?
Yeah. Fusion X, which is the newest Fusion. It's got more.
Fusions are the ones that we had out last year.
Yep. That's the ones that we've been using. So they've got a new enhanced version of that Fusion coming out. They've got one called the Reactor coming out. There's a new upgrade on the Muddy Manifest that's coming up as well. A couple other ones. But yeah, I mean, the cell game is obvious. Listen, at the end of the day, I used to spend more time checking cameras than I did hunting, and now with this, yeah. But I mean, it's and I say this lightly in that there's, money is obviously always a limiting factor, but if you can buy cell cameras, you're crazy to be using regular cameras anymore.
Wow, dude, and you just have to. They're not for everybody. But it's the
people say like I think that we're cheating.
Well, it's the age-old adage or whatever that like, dude, time is money, and at this point, like, I'm willing to invest a few hundred or even a few $1,000s in cell cameras that work, that keep me out of the woods and keep me
in the info.
Yeah,
real-time info, man.
Yeah, man. You just got to figure out how to like be more like your time is valuable. And your money is valuable. And there's just somewhere there's a balance of like, okay, well, if I want to hunt and I want to be effective with my time, here's the tool to help me do that. And
I mean, everybody that's hunted long enough and anybody that's used regular cell cameras knows there's nothing worse than checking a camera and having just an absolute massive amount of buck activity 4 days ago. Like, what good does that do you? You're like, oh man, it was hot here 4 days ago.
Dude,
doesn't do anything.
More than almost anything that we reflect on and say, like, man, wouldn't this have made a big difference? Without a doubt, there are bucks that I would have killed had I had been using cell cameras.
100%.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's real-time information. You cannot put a price on that.
Well, dude, that's one of the biggest transitions that, like, cell cameras has, I think, brought on for hunters is that you used to have to, and even, like, in not that they're over by any means, but the days of Bill Wenke, like, the first, 8 years of Midwest whitetail type of a deal. A lot of the theme of that stuff is like year to year.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, we know that this buck did this year, and like not necessarily that he will do that exactly, but
good chance.
Yeah. And so your mindset is like, okay, well, I remember I had these pictures here and he did this, and generally he did this. And you use that to piece together a strategy for the following year or the next following year. And we still do that because the information is the same, but how many times does that buck do the same thing 2 days in a row and then never again, or a few every other day?
Oh, 100%.
And to not have that information, right on hand is like, what a advantage if you have them and disadvantage if you don't.
I mean, it this year on the mountain, I knew at the end of October we were coming into it. First doe was going to come into estrus. There was a cold front that was hitting. My buck would have daylighted in front of my blind. I thought it was on the 28th. Cell camera tells me it's the 27th. And so I committed to that area the next day, hoping that I'd get lucky. He was already probably tied down with the doe for the next 2-3 days. But like if I would have just had a normal camera there checking, like I would have no idea that deer came by. I would have went in there and hunted the next day and been like, man, what, like, defeating. Like this, I had everything in my strategy to know. Then you go check the camera and you're like, well, shit, he was here last night.
The other thing is conditions and just observing conditions. I remember, dude, this wasn't that long ago. This was a couple of years ago that cell cams really started catching on. But and just before this, remember we used to try to like go back and say, oh, okay, this buck was here on this day and this day and this day.
Go back and look at our saved pictures and stuff.
And let me try to figure out what the weather was, what the conditions were that day. And so you'd like be digging into Weather Underground and try to figure out what was it that day. Dude, with cell cameras, it's like he's there right now. What's it? Oh, this is what it's doing. Like thermals are probably rising right now. It's 34.
Makes sense.
Makes sense that he's there.
Yeah.
Makes you a better hunter to be able to observe these deer in almost real time.
Yeah, and I think people get a bad rap around that because they'll be like, well, you know, that just takes all the skill out of hunting. It's like, first of all, no, it doesn't. You know, anywhere, you know, if you put a camera up alongside of, you know, a trail or a scrape, or like, you're just observing at that point. There's no true advantage that camera is going to give you in that moment that you're going to end up killing that buck, right? It does give you insight that helps you build a better strategy towards it, which is awesome. But I think that the biggest thing that people, you know, kind of glaze over on is the fact that it's still a challenge and a strategy to place that camera appropriately. As much as it is to get that buck on it, because you'll have that camera out. I mean, dude, what good is me having a cell camera out 400 yards from the nearest bow stand that I'm going to hunt on to get that buck during daylight hours? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me unless I'm going to run and gun. Like, that camera has to be in the same proximity of which you're hunting. Otherwise, the data you're getting, you can maybe form a pattern. He's going here or there, but you still have no idea what's happening in the area that you're hunting, you know, in general. And that's tough. Yeah. You know, people do that all the time. They'll be like, oh yeah, I have it over on the field. I'm like, cool. Where's your closest stand? Well, over that way. Why? Who cares what's over there?
Yeah, I mean, everybody does it different. Like, I've had cameras buried nowhere near tree stands, but over the years, I've gotten more aggressive with my tree stand setups, and now there's almost isn't anywhere I wouldn't put a tree stand because it's like too aggressive.
Sure. But I think it coincides with our strategy of, I think a lot of our camera placements, let's take Kansas, for example. Most of our camera placements are at or right near where our stand is. Yeah. Right. So when we're observing deer, when we're there or not, we're like, hey, that deer came past that stand.
There's a lot of pressure to choose the right spot. I think that's actually an interesting conversation, is that the relationship between tree stand setups, cameras, you know, and or food sources that we're hunting or not hunting over, and also throwing, you know, scent, like a lot of guys use estrus on wicks and stuff like that. Dude, what a what a mind game to try to set all of that up and think about everything ahead of time. Like, dude, we're out not even shed hunting, clearing the trails in Kentucky, and our heads are around like, well, dude, where's the primary travel route here? Do we want to use a feeder? If so, how does that need to be positioned in accordance? How the hell do we even get to this spot? With the tree stand, the camera, and this primary travel route? Yep. Which side of it do we need to be on because of the prevailing wind? Like, are we going to be able to feed this thing? How do we access it?
Yeah, and this is February.
How is the cell camera going to run? Like, dude, it's such a system that, like, it's not necessarily required to kill deer, but when it works out, I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, that's the success. I mean, we talked about it before. You know, a lot of my success has come on first sits, right? And I have to attribute some of that to pure luck. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Pure damn luck. The other part of it, though, is proper planning and execution of knowing and observing and studying that area. By the way? I am. Yeah. Luck of the Irish.
Patty's Day coming up here.
Probably going to find a shed.
That movie, Luck of the Irish? Is that what it's called? On Disney Channel?
I don't know. Sounds familiar.
Great movie.
Lucky Charms. Luck of the Irish. Maybe we'll find some sheds. See, that's in unison.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
We must plan that one, Ian. Yeah, no, I think that strategy is so
It's almost
important.
like we finish each other's
drinks.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I think that strategy is so important, man, because I think that everything that you're doing in that off season, everything you're doing in that preseason to prep, comes back full circle during that hunt. Because if you're off, if you come into, you could do all the things in the world. You could scout that right. You could have buck's pattern. You walk right through that main travel corridor to get to your stand. That thing's blown. You're screwed.
Yeah.
And so it's just one thing. And that's the one thing I think on the cell camera side is, think about when we were using regular cameras, if you were aggressive with your camera placement, you know how much scent you were dropping every week or so to go check that camera?
Can't do it. Well,
it's insane.
Dude, that's why I was so frustrated with those MV2s. Like, not to keep throwing those guys under the bus. They have some great cameras at this point, and it's in the past. But, dude, what an obligation. Like, not to sound entitled, but what an obligation cell camera companies especially have to hunters.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
And I'm sure some of them do, but if they realized how much time, effort,
money,
and how much we rely on those things, not just to give us pictures of deer, but to save us from having to drop hundreds of dollars on batteries in excess, hundreds if not thousands of dollars in food or attractant,
hours away from the family.
All the other parts of this system are only as effective as the weakest link,
and
which in a lot of cases is no fault to cell cameras. I mean, technology
it is the cell cameras. Yeah, that is. And I mean, listen, when we go out to Kansas or wherever, twice a year, the third time being the hunt, when we put that camera up and it fails us sometime in between, there's a lot of anger and disappointment that comes along with that.
Yeah,
because that's it. I can't go back. There's nobody there. System.
We're spending hundreds of dollars on plane tickets to fly to Kansas to set these things up, to fly back home and find out that they're not working or there's an issue. Like, what do you do?
Boils my blood.
Yeah. I mean, dude, how many times did I call you this year and I was just done with it?
Yeah.
We're gonna have an Office Space type situation here at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's insane because you've built your strategy around, and like you said, there's a weak link, and oftentimes it is the technology, whether it's service based, whether it's hardware based. There's always something there that is causing an issue. You could have the best stand, you could have the pattern on the bucks, you could have your right access routes to it, but ultimately, if that camera goes down, you have to go back in to tend to it, which instantly applies more pressure, applies more scent, and that is going to instantly decrease your chances of killing a mature buck.
For sure.
I don't care who you are. The more time that you're in and out of those areas, the less chance you have of killing a mature buck. If you're just trying to kill any buck, knock yourself out. Right? You're trying to kill a mature buck, you can't do that. Which if you think about it, like there's plenty of deer that I know, like this deer behind you, it's like that deer was killed when I was using a standard camera on a scrape about 100, 150 yards away. But I walked past that camera to get to that stand.
It was a stand. It was a regular camera.
Mm-hmm. But the key is two things. Number one, he never showed up on that camera until the night before I accessed and killed him. And number two was that was the first time I ever hunted there. So even though I was checking the camera, I never gone past the camera deeper to that stand besides that day when I did a hanging hunt.
Perfect timing, man.
And so you just have to think about, I know people are so critical and they think like it's kind of like this.
Do you get a lot of negative feedback for using cell cameras?
A ton.
Where?
Just spend some time on Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, well, that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't do that.
It's crazy. I love it. I've been a trail camera nut since 15 years ago. 15, 16 years ago is probably when I had my first trail camera. Mm-hmm. And I've never looked back since. Like I'll use whatever technology is legal and available. I'll put it to use. Not because I think that it's giving me a critical edge on killing a buck. Like you still got to get in there and make the right shot. Mm-hmm. But I'm an information freak. I just want to know.
Yeah.
And to me, there's nothing better than like how many times did we wake up in Kansas and it was like first thing I did was like he was down there.
Yep.
And just knowing he's down there, doesn't that give you some sort of motivation to be like, you know what, I'm gonna sit her out today. He's in there. I'm gonna sit her out today.
Oh yeah, it's an invaluable tool for sure. I understand why some guys would be against them, and
there's some states it's completely illegal in. Can't use a cell camera.
Really?
I think Montana's one of them.
That makes sense.
I mean, hell, you couldn't use a lighted knock. I don't know if you still can use a lighted knock in the state of Montana.
That was Montana? I thought that was...
Was that Pope and Young? Pope and Young record book. Was Pope and Young record book.
Well, it was definitely Pope and Young, but there are states... it might have been Wyoming or...
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Wyoming.
Yeah, well, I know several of those, I think, have cell camera bans as well. I mean, Missouri, which...
That's what it is.
For the longest time, I had no idea, right? I ran normal cameras on Missouri's public lands for a long time. Turns out that was illegal. because it wasn't in the rule book. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I can't run a trail camera on public land?
That's a general rule of thumb. If it's not in the rule book, it's illegal?
100%.
Wow. Is that all states or that's Missouri?
That's Missouri at least. No, fortunately, I had some stuff on like Army Corps of Engineer land, which doesn't cross over with Missouri Department of Conservation. But technically, I wasn't allowed to run trail cameras. I assume for some sort of privacy act.
You son of a gun.
What am I going to do? Be a peeping Tom putting trail cameras all over the place? Just trying to catch a big buck.
Yeah. Just looking for tines, man.
Yeah. Jeez, get off my back.
Huh.
So, but that's just how it is, and people have to look at that kind of stuff and think, there's advances that are happening in the industry, and these people that are trying to just drag it down. Like, I mean, look at the state of Pennsylvania, even on a season thing. We made a huge season change, a year ago or whatever, when we moved the opening day of rifle season from traditionally on Monday after Thanksgiving to Saturday.
Yeah, that's big.
And then we had to take a Sunday off. Then this year we got to hunt that first Sunday. So now you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday really to hunt rifle season versus just a Monday. People lost their minds. Stop changing my traditions. And it's like, dude, you just got a whole extra weekend. They didn't have to take off work to hunt. They're like, we don't like change.
Yeah. Well, that's it. People don't like change.
It's like, cool, dude, don't hunt. Well, it's opening day. Like, I have to hunt.
Yeah.
Like, stop complaining then.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's all it is. Yeah, people don't like change. I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to understand that if you listen, people don't give deer and especially mature bucks enough credit. If you want to go out there and consistently kill mature bucks, it's not about just being out there and putting boots on the ground. In fact, I think that's one of the worst things you can do. The more time you're out there, the more boots on the ground, the more time in a specific tree stand, I think your chances decrease. People argue against that.
Well, I think the factor that determines that is how much ground you've got to hunt.
For sure.
Like the hunting public, the more time you spend in the woods, the better off.
Yeah, but they're not in the same tree stand in the same spot over and over again.
That's my point. Exactly.
But think about it. I mean, if you said, "Hey, I'm going to truly go in there and kill Pretty Boy next year," right? And you had the full season to hunt, would you hunt that stand every day?
I don't know. Probably not.
I think the more pressure you put on it, the worse it gets.
Well, no, dude, but that's not because of the pressure. It's just like, I mean, deer do different things throughout the season. Yeah, conditions. Yeah. More so time of year, probably. But.
I mean, I know growing up, I think I sat the same damn stand, whether it was open day of archery season or open day of rifle season.
Oh, yeah.
I just climbed up in the same damn stand.
Yeah, we used to
every time. So it's just, that's what it was. That's what I had available to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't worry about conditions. I didn't worry about other stuff. It just, that's what it was. And I got lucky.
It's funny to think about some of those old. You ever come across tree stands that you used to hunt and you're like, what was I doing? Like, what?
Most of mine were built, like built-in tree stands. Look like a tree house. Some of them to the point where I'm like, I should have died.
I never hunted out of those like wooden tree stands.
You know what my dad's tree stand was? He, I'm sure there's some sort of time law effect here, but he used a old stop sign and he made a tree stand out of a stop sign.
Wow.
And that's what he was hunting out of in a tree. That tree had basically grown around that tree stand. And now looking back on it, I'm like, dude, we could have died easily out of that stand.
Yeah.
It killed several bucks out of it.
Huh.
Do you ever see those videos of like the old climber guys where he's like bear hugging the tree and like pulling it up and it's like,
yeah. I hear guys doing that today. Yeah, I'll be in a tree stand and the people that lease my uncle's property, like I will have been in and settled for like 25 minutes and I'll see like a freaking spotlight like walking down through the woods and then they get to their thing and then it's quiet for a minute and then you hear and then I hear them like open a Snickers bar and they're like 100 yards away. It's like
what are people thinking?
What are you doing? Meanwhile, they were getting shots at all the deer. So
apparently we're doing something wrong.
Apparently I'm the one doing stuff wrong. But
I mean, it isn't an easy thing to go in and hang and hunt. It's a lot of gear,
I love it though, man. It's fun.
It's methodical when you get to the base of that stand.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of hunting that I enjoy is the gear management side of thing. It's just because I'm an OCD type of a person, and I just need like not in all aspects of life, but with my hunting gear, like it makes me I feel like I'm achieving something at hunting when I have my gears organized and it works the way that it's intended to. And hanging hunt is so difficult that it requires an extreme version of that.
Huge.
And so when it's done successfully, especially when you're filming your hunt with 2 people, 2 stands, like all this extra gear, carrying decoys in, like it sucks and it's a lot of work. But when it goes off and it's done, especially when you finally kill the deer, which is the ultimate goal that you're trying to get there, it's like that's just part of climbing the mountain to success with that.
Yeah, because I mean, I know I'm super focused on the approach to the stand.
Ian, do you remember that tree that, because Ian came and filmed a couple hunts with me this year, do you remember we got into that really sick spot? We came up on that 3-year-old that was bedded, which was really cool. First of all,
is that the one that was sleeping that we were talking
he was
about?
Sleeping, yeah, he was just like nodding off.
I thought Ian would have came up and right in the jugular.
It was the same buck that Corey and I filmed.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
was
that one that was in the field.
Yeah,
like under the tree.
He was scraping.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, anyways, after that, we finished getting. Do you remember? This was the spot almost to the Yoders.
You got back in those oaks, right, where they were dropping.
Yeah.
That one tree was dropping.
Dude, that's a good spot too. In fact, I'm going back there. If they. Yep, it was a ways back in there. I think if they plant that in beans this year, that's going to be... they're coming out of those pines, and they're filtering through there, and they're coming up in that. It's just you can only hunt it once or twice, and that's going to be it.
Yeah.
But so we walked in there with these 2 stands, all of our stuff. Took a little time with that buck getting in there, and we finally picked the tree out, and it was like...
It was a giant.
It was this much bigger than my step, like my rope.
Your strap.
My strip. So what I did, and here's the, don't anybody ever do this, but here's the hack to get around that. So what I did is I just basically put the thing up as high as I possibly could, and I turned the stick sideways, right? So it's not pushing away from, so then I can get it, and then I just like horsed it up and around and finally got it in there. And so the very bottom step is like as high as I can reach.
Well, Ian's like 5 foot tall. How did he stand on your shoulders to get in, or what?
I just figured out jump. I don't know. I just,
Jared's already up there. He's like, "You coming?"
Yeah. it was like one of the biggest trees I've ever gotten those things in, but just struggles like that. And dude, we were prepared for it. And then I've got a wicked tree gear saw that I threw that, which is awesome. I threw that down to Ian. I was like, cut that one, cut this one, cut this one.
I remember you sending me pictures of him like down, like cutting. Like,
I said that's a good boy. What did I say?
We had like 2 hours of sunlight though. It wasn't like much time.
No, it was a little late. When
you got in there a little late.
We saw a ton of deer. Yeah, Ian's like, what did you say? You're like, this is the best hunt of my life.
It was constant.
Dude, you're not even hunting.
You remember that buck that ran in on us like on last minute? You were like, here, buck. And I like grabbed my bow and I spun around and it was like a 2-year-old. Yeah, that was a cool spot. Dan, dude, that was late in November.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see those deer were so tied to a red oak tree there. Red oaks were
one of the last ones to be dropping, probably.
We saw probably 14, 15 deer just that were on that red oak tree, filtering out those big pines.
And that's one of those ones, like, you probably look 2 weeks before that, and there probably were no deer touching that because that tree probably wasn't dropping yet. Then all of a sudden it starts dropping, and boom, they're there.
We found a good spot there, though. I'm excited to go back and check that out. Colton, you remember where we had the encounter with that buck that I rattled? Remember we hunted that stand a lot, the original Clover, I think we call it. This is, do you remember, like just basically straight down through the woods, like all the way towards the creek, almost to the fence line. It's kind of where we ended up going.
Does that go down in the bottom?
What?
Does that go, if you're up on the original Clover, you're up high at that point, right?
Yeah,
Does
that's like the opposing ridge to like the dale, essentially. And it's the ravine between the two and all the way to the west is where that's at.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, the property to the west is like a giant pine tree, whatever you call it, like I don't know what you call it, a pine tree planting, but yeah, hundreds, if not like 1,000 or more acres of just pine trees out there. But also happens to be where we find a bunch of dead deer every year, it seems like. There was a nice 2-year-old. I don't know if Colton, you and I saw him, but I found dead in that same ravine, and they died on him. You good?
Yeah. No, apparently I was still on Bluetooth. So apparently I was on Bluetooth. Hello? Caller? Yes. Caller number 1?
Yes, hello.
Yeah. They're like, your vehicle registration as a, damn it!
I'll get you.
Oh, wait, we have our first caller, and it's my vehicle registration. No, I think that that's kind of the big thing too, man. It's so important to find those kind of spots, and again, that's a year-to-year thing. Like, I'm sure you guys will spend time, whether you end up putting a cell camera in there or somehow just knowing, like, hey, end of November, if we're still looking, like, we need to hit that spot, right? We need to get in there.
Yeah. You kind of just store places like that away in your brain, and you're like, dude, I know what it was that time. There's been a few of them. Just the longer you hunt a property, you kind of have like moments of realization. It's like, oh, I get why they're using this that way.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember for the past 3 years, I've seen them doing this or that. And you're like, that makes perfect sense. That's the spot that I need to be. And it's weird how you just walk right past them. Like, you literally can have a tree stand 50 yards away some years and you miss it,
Yeah, well, and that's the cool thing about Kansas and why I'm so excited to get back there is that, our stands don't change very much from year to year in those spots. We know the spots. It's the way the terrain sets up. But I mean, those bucks are in there, and next year they'll be in the same areas. It's just timing and conditions for that spot. And on the flip side, the first day really the second day we get there, we'll be checking out our new places in Illinois, which I've never hunted in Illinois. I know you have once. We've got 2 80-acre pieces, bump up to huge public. I mean, almost spitting mirror of like Kansas, right? In that we've got these private leases that aren't giant, but they're good size. And then we've got monster chunks of public that are right adjacent to it.
Colton, did you ever hear a story about me hunting in Illinois a couple years ago? Long story short, I went out and hunted with this buddy that I met in Alaska. I was doing an internship out there. He was from Illinois. Was that working here?
Yeah, you're probably early, like maybe sophomore, junior in college.
So like what, 20?
Yeah, probably
20. My dad loaned me his truck, and I packed everything up and drove to Illinois. That was my first big out of state hunt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I hunted IWC too after that. So I've hunted Illinois twice. I forgot about that. I shot a buck out there.
You hit a buck out there.
Wow, I forgot about that. That's a big buck. Anyways, this is the first time, and I drove all the way out there, and dude, it was a weird situation. Like, I was staying. It was just like they had just a little small house, and it was in the middle of nowhere, which was great. I was like, man, it's Illinois. Like, I'm here for like not much was gonna.
They weren't really catering to you
as
like a hunter coming in to be with them.
Well, when I got there.
He was like, oh, shit, you actually came?
Like, nobody was there. He's like, yeah, well, nobody was there. And I called him. I was like, hey, dude, like, I've been texting you. Like, I'm here. Like, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're out. My buddy shot a deer. And, like, comes out probably not legal. I don't know for sure. But, like, just a weird, like, I don't know. It was just a weird situation. And so I ended up hunting for the week. Like, I, went out and picked my spots or whatever.
It was a pretty shitty hunt.
It was bad. It was warm.
Yeah.
I got pictures of 1 or 2 mature bucks, but, junkers, and it just was a slow week. I dropped my phone out of the stand and broke it. I had to go to Verizon in Paducah, Kentucky to get a new phone, or AT&T or something. To top the week off, it was like one of the last days of the hunt, like I had 1 or 2 more days left. I was going into this spot, and like it was a grind at this point. And I opened the gate. There's cows on this farm. And I pulled into the gate. And as soon as I pulled through the gate, I look on the horizon, and there's a big buck, like 50, 100 yards, like right up there, just following a doe around. I can see him like in the moonlight. And I stopped, and I just watched him. And I was like, okay, dude, like that's what I'm here for. And so I grabbed my stuff, and I run to the stand. It was only like 200-300 yards, down the fence line or whatever. And so I had some enthusiasm at that point. And so I sat for 2-3 hours and didn't really see anything. It was another slow morning. And around like 9 or 9:30, Travis, my buddy that I was staying with, calls me, and he's like, or he texted me or something. He's like, well, what the heck, man? He's like, you didn't think to even close the gate? And then like, I just thought about it. My heart like kind of sank. Turns out like I let all these farmers' cows out. Because I got distracted by this deer. I'd never shut the gate. A bunch of the cows left. We're all over the road. I mean, it's literally the middle of nowhere, but still a bad situation. You don't want cows everywhere. And so,
needless to say, he was never invited back.
The farmer basically said, "Yeah, I think we're done here.
Yeah. I think you should probably go back home."
It's humbling, but I mean, I guess just a good learning experience. You guys slow down and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
The cool, and that sucks. Again, I think there was probably a lot of things at play there that probably made that hunt not what you thought it was. But I know that when we went to Kansas for the first couple times, like it far, as hard as it is to believe, like it far exceeded my expectations of what that place was like, and it continues to always be that kind of way. And so, where we're at, we've got these 2 leases that we've got now in southern Illinois, close to the river, close to the Ohio River and Mississippi, technically. I think we're in the right area. Right. I have no idea. We've never stepped foot on these properties. We don't know what they look like. We just leased them because they seem like the right places, in the right area for the right amount of money.
Colton, have you ever hunted any other states behind or besides Ohio? Have you been to the Midwest?
No. I've only been to Alabama.
Okay. I think that guys that have not hunted or even been to the Midwest, it's almost impossible to like have a mindset of what it's like.
Can't. I remember taking my dad. Well, same with you. I mean, you had hunted IWC before Kansas?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So you kind of had a taste for it. Mm-hmm. And my dad has never hunted anywhere besides Pennsylvania. We take him to Kansas, and it was like the one of the first mornings he had like 8 bucks chasing doe, and he's like, "What the hell, dude?"
IWC was my first exposure to like, this is
whitetail hunting.
I passed on a nice 3-year-old the first day. I ended up getting a shot at probably what was like a 160 type 10 point, and it didn't work out. I bet you. I think the deer lived from that shot. I do, in hindsight, but. Dude, it's just different. It's like because guys watch whatever TV or YouTube and they see these guys hunting and they're like, man, like that's not real. Like I don't have that kind of opportunity. And like,
unless I own 1,000 acres in Iowa, there's no way in hell I'm experiencing
just like anything
that.
Else, man. Like there's parts of the country that don't have stuff that you want. Like
public land right here. Like this deer, for anybody that had a bow tag in Kansas in that unit, could have walked on and had a chance at killing this 180-inch deer.
Dude, it's just like I don't know. Mountains or something. Like you watch TV of people climbing mountains, you're like, that's amazing, I would love to do that, and then you go out in your backyard and you're like, well, dude, there's no mountains here.
Like, I can't do it.
Go and drive to the Rocky Mountains and you'll be like, oh,
I can do it.
This is awesome.
Here it is.
This is real. Like it's a real thing. So when you go to the Midwest and you see the kind of deer that are out there,
it's a ridiculous stat. I think it's like I don't know if it's up to date anymore, but it was like 92% of hunters will never hunt outside of the state that they're from.
Wow.
Right? They never leave. And I get that. The moment you step out of your state, number one, it's out of your comfort zone. Number two is it costs more for a license, right? If I'm paying $50 for every possible license I can get in Pennsylvania, the moment I go to Ohio, it's $155 or $255 just for a deer tag.
I think they raised it.
Yeah.
Dude, it was costing me in Ohio because I'm a non-resident. I'm a Pennsylvania resident. What did I say? They raised the cost of so they sell either sex tags, but you can only shoot 1 buck, and you can shoot up to 6 total deer.
Yeah, wasn't it like $30 for a doe tag?
No, it was more. It was like $47
for a doe tag
for every either sex tag.
It's crazy
after the license. So if I wanted to shoot a buck and 5 does, it would cost me like $800.
Yeah, it's nuts. It costs us $500 to hunt Kansas, and that usually includes an either sex and a doe tag with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it costs money, but man, the opportunities, the experience, and frankly, like
they'd be paying me to shoot doves, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think they call that a bounty, and they got rid of that for a reason.
Sorry.
Is that you? Maybe me, possibly. Investors, possibly you. Yeah. So I mean, I get it. I understand why. But it's wild when you get out there. Like if you feel suppressed where you're hunting, like if you're in Pennsylvania and you're like, man, I'm never going to kill anything bigger than a 2-year-old. It's like, go to Ohio.
Got some bad news.
What?
I just thought of, sounds like South Dakota's potentially a no-go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he texted me yesterday and said, he's like, I just haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming it's a no. He's like, I just want to let you know.
So we just like show up or?
So I hunt here. I don't know. Yeah. That sucks.
Ethan said we could hunt here.
So we were trying to plan a South Dakota and North Dakota.
One might call it the Dakota double.
The Dakota double. Because we did good in North Dakota last year. That tag seems fairly drawable, like 60%.
780 tags this year. That's it. Makes me cringe a little bit. But
it sucks that like I think this is the first year that they're moving the opening day of South Dakota's non-resident archery season to October 1st.
For public land.
Yeah, but not private. So we were hoping to get access to this piece of private so that we could do
the Dakota double.
The double.
Now I'm just hoping for the Dakota.
So if anybody in South Dakota has got some property and some mule deer
that they'd like to get rid of,
yeah, we'd be happy to help.
Be happy to help bounty him up.
Is it Nick from South Dakota?
Who?
Munt?
Yes. Possibly Nick.
Hey.
I know he needs somebody to come hunt his.
Hey.
I know he needs somebody to come hunt some Nebraska property with him.
We should explore that.
Mm-hmm.
What's this Nebraska property?
I don't know. Apparently, he's got openings. Maybe people that were supposed to be there the week that he's hunting.
It's probably an outfit that
it is.
Works.
I think he's trying to help out. Yeah.
Did he shoot that mule deer out of a Milo patch in South Dakota? You remember that? That was South Dakota?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm not nervous about it. I think it was the same amount of tags last year, but man, North Dakota was awesome.
Let's figure that out.
Little Nick Munn action.
Because your uncle is filming them potentially in South Dakota at some point.
Possibly. He's their editor.
Mm-hmm. I'll text Nick.
All right.
Got any
All
private
right.
land?
Huh?
Him and Mallory just built a house. I don't care if it's 10 acres. You got a mule deer that shows up in your backyard, I'll kill it.
Yeah. Did he build the house in South Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
The boy's got some taxidermy.
His house looks pretty cool. I don't know if they're done yet or not.
Got to be getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing it.
I'll just be sitting on his kid's playhouse in the backyard.
Interesting.
Mallory, I need some coffee.
Huh. Anyways.
Yeah, so it is.
Well, dude, Arizona's the other one. If
Yeah.
North Dakota and South Dakota don't work out, Arizona's got an over-the-counter mule deer tag that we should probably check
Is that
out.
by unit?
No, statewide.
Statewide. So we just pick whatever the best area is and go to town. I think the one area that is out of that is the Kaibab. So the Kaibab Peninsula is what comes out of,
Probably.
that's the spot. But usually they're not moving from Utah into the Kaibab until like November.
A kebab?
Kebab. You want to look at some big mule deer? That's where they're at. Coming from that
You sound
Utah.
like such an old timer every time you
plateau
talk about it.
down.
You're like, oh, the Kaibab.
I've only been there once. The two things I remember about the Kaibab is number one.
Here we go.
Number one
Here
is
we go.
giant mule deer, right? Like I'm just sitting at this. I was working a check station for the Arizona Game and Fish Commission, and like the first person that comes in is like this 12-year-old girl. So first of all, to hunt the Kaibab area, it's like a once in a lifetime draw. Like even for an Arizona resident, this 12-year-old girl comes in. First year she put in, Drew kills a 237-inch non-typical.
It's not
Just
bad.
freaking giant,
Yep.
right? And then they're just lining up giants. The other thing is they've got the Kaibab squirrel. It's black with an all-white tail. Pretty freaky.
Whoa.
Those are the only two things I remember about the Kaibab.
Giant deer.
Giant deer and black and white squirrels.
Huh. Well, yeah, I think Arizona would be pretty cool to check out.
It's a far drive.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Far drive. Could probably
that's
hit.
the fun part, man. That's
Could
how-
probably hit Kansas
We'll figure it out.
on the way to get prepped.
Hey, you're paying. Hey, that
Sounds like I'm getting the short end of the stick
that
here.
could work, or we could fly.
Potentially.
I don't know. We thought about flying to North Dakota, and we decided not to because of all the camping gear.
I think we could execute the same plan in Arizona. Get to like
It's
somewhere
just a lot.
close to wherever we're gonna hunt in Arizona. Pick up our little A-line or A-frame. Set her up and rock.
Do you remember?
I bet it's hot in Arizona in September.
I love it. I like that heat. I love hunting in t-shirts.
I like warm.
And those real light pair of pants that I've got.
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's snakes out there too.
Yeah. I'm sure there were snakes supposedly in North Dakota. We didn't see any.
Never saw any. It did feel a little snaky enough that I was kind of on edge.
We wore gators.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wouldn't have stopped it probably, but
You don't think?
I don't think so. It was better for the cactus. Which I still end up
What's that show?
like,
What's
pulling
that
out of my
show? Is it The
ass
Office?
every-
He's like, what
every
needs
night.
sucking? What is that?
I don't know. Arizona would be fun though.
What needs sucking? I thought I tried to order a. They never came. Maybe they did, and I just missed it.
Your
They-
gators?
No, they have little like snake poison sucking.
Yeah, those things don't work.
You squeeze them and then you
I'm
stick
pretty
them on
sure-
the bite, and then it like supposed to suck them out.
Yeah, I think you're screwed at that
Well,
point.
because I was looking for, something to do. Like, what do
Mhm.
you do, man? If you get bit.
You got to suck the venom out.
I don't. Yeah, what do you do? You suck it out?
I don't know. Depends on where it's at.
What needs sucking?
Depends on where the bite mark is.
What is that? I'm gonna say that's The Office.
Yeah, I don't know. That is. I bet there are some snakes out there.
Oh, yeah.
Snakes everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Snakes in Kentucky.
My dad and I have been putting in for that Arizona elk.
Mm-hmm.
Elk tag for a while. I think that's one of those 4 to 6 year type of deals. But Arizona's got a cool thing that's called point guard.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you draw and like your friend doesn't draw, you can like put it off.
Or like defer it.
Or whoever you're trying to hunt with. Yeah, you can defer it from year to year.
They're coming up. I think, is North Dakota this month or next month?
I think it's April.
Okay.
Month, yeah.
Kansas is next
I
month.
need to get in for Colorado and Montana are still open, and I need to
Kansas is next month.
hit those.
I don't think we have to worry about draws anywhere else. Over the counter for most of the places we're hunting, fortunately.
Iowa.
Put in another point there.
When's that?
April. Yep.
Wyoming's later in the year.
September.
For preference point only.
Yep.
So
we'll start stacking them.
Missouri's over the counter, right?
Yep. Well, I mean, that was the plan this year, and knock on wood, we get drawn for Kansas. But at some point, we're gonna have to have a backup year, because it's almost inevitable at some point we won't draw for Kansas. So what that looks like is this year we've got plenty of places to hunt. We could pick up a Missouri lease. I know a couple places there.
We got plenty of places, man.
Yeah, spend time, but
yeah, that's what we need more of is time.
ain't making any more of that.
No, they're not.
No, I think it'll be good. I mean, I'm excited to start getting out. I'm really excited to get some boots on the ground. I walked a lot last week in Kentucky and found some good sign. Didn't find a damn antler though.
It's Kentucky.
Yeah, it was big woods.
I'm pretty sure they leave the state to shed.
Holy cow, man!
They go to Illinois or Ohio.
I was up and down. I was getting beat up, and there was no sheds to be had. I felt like I was in.
Dude, I'm telling you, just like going to the Midwest is like so revealing. Shed hunting around winter food sources is the same thing.
For sure.
When you have a big winter food source that deer are on between the months of February and March,
you're gonna find sheds.
You're gonna find sheds.
Well, and that's the problem in Kentucky is I'm sitting in 100,000 acres of timber. Like, I don't know where these deer are at. I've found a ton of buck sign, ton of old scrapes, some big rubs, some great trails, no antlers. And that's the thing. Like, it's crazy because people will see that. Like, I guarantee people try to shed hunt West Virginia or Pennsylvania or Kentucky, and they don't find anything, right? And then they see these guys in Iowa and Missouri and Kansas that have 3 days of shed hunting and 150 sheds to show for it. And it's like, am I a bad shed hunter? It's like, no, the deer just aren't concentrated in the areas enough to find them.
Yeah, I mean, shed hunting's not hard. It's just walking around looking. That's all it is.
But if they're not there, you're not going to find them.
Exactly. If they're there or they're not.
Yeah, and I think that's the toughest part about it is trying to figure out where some of these are. Because we've got some winter wheat fields. We've got some old crop fields in Kansas that I'm sure, are probably picked over by people at this point. Typically, I think we find most of our sheds either on our leases and or if we're walking like deep trails in public. Mm-hmm. That's usually when we start coming across stuff.
I would imagine nobody's shed hunting these private tracks in Illinois. I hope not, anyways.
Yeah, but hope not. No, I think we'll do. And even some of the public that's right there bumped up to it. I mean, it's hard access, so I assume that there's probably not many people walking through there. It'll be interesting to find those food sources. I bet we find some big buck sign, like old buck sign. Be awesome to just find like a monster shed, 160-inch sheds, and know that there's running around
Wouldn't
there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Colton's gonna find them.
That's fine.
Then he's gonna give them to us. Why don't you let me see those?
I don't know why that's so funny. Give me this.
Just give me this. The one part that will be hard is that second lease because it's got all that like flooded timber. So it's public, but a lot of it's like big flooded timber and cypress trees and stuff like that.
Not on the lease.
No.
Yeah.
It's the public behind it.
I don't know if that's even navigable, to be honest.
I'm just going to put Weston in a kayak and send him down.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you might have to get on a kayak to get down in there. I don't know.
Swamp donkeys.
Yeah, that's what it is. I remember when we pulled that up, I was like, dude, it's a legitimate giant
It'll be
swamp.
interesting to see what that looks like. I mean, it's going to look a lot different now. I'm sure that water's high compared to what it'll be in August, September.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no idea what it looks like. I don't know how far that water comes in.
Freaking water moccasins down there.
Maybe.
Is that
We'll send Weston in there. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. We'll just send Weston in there. He likes public anyways better. So that piece will also be a tough one to hunt because it's mostly filled with a big block of timber on it. But
did you wrote a letter to the people to the northwest? Did you ever hear from them? No.
Mm-mm.
Can't hurt to knock on the door.
Yeah, I don't know if they live on it or not. They look like just vacant tracks. Might write another one before we get down there. People appreciate the written hand letters.
Not to pick on Weston. I thought it was so funny when he said, I asked like 25 people, 27 people and got one yes.
You're a terrible salesman.
No, I mean, he's not. I can't believe.
That's the reality of it, though. But I mean, I think about how many people after 10 of those or 5 of those would be like, screw this, I give up.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't. Public land obviously is extremely tough hunting. It can be rewarding. We've all had some good success on it. You just you're gonna work for it, right? If you just think that you're gonna pull up in an old barn and walk 100 yards, sit in your stand and kill a buck, like you're not gonna do that on public land. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's hard to figure out how do you encourage people to be like, listen, you go around and you ask for property, you can't afford a lease, like don't just like stop. You know, that's not gonna. Losers don't ever, get anything. Yeah, quitters.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to get on that new piece and be excited to get back to Kansas too. Crazy that we haven't shed hunted out there and that long. It time flies.
And it's just been busy and tough to get on there, but I do think that the years that we are able to shed hunt and get more boots on the ground and be able to identify some of the areas that we just kind of constantly are wandering about, it makes us better that next year in terms of hunting plans and situations and strategies. And yeah, I mean, who knows? We've got a lot of ground to cover this year, and I'm sure not all of it's going to get hunted like we want it to. But I mean, it's options. Yeah. Which is probably the most exciting is that there's plenty of options. If the deer aren't cooperating here, or you haven't seen a big buck here yet, then look at the other places. Yeah, you may not hunt 3 days here. You may only hunt 1 day, but you might as well hunt 1 day in the game for a big buck than 3 days in the game for nothing.
Well, this year will be interesting too, because if we get drawn, I think if we're planning on having Corey come out with us, I'll have a new element of trying to get him a spot figured out, basically, because that's what we do in Kansas. We have a few set spots. We hunt it during the rut, so it's like we're not hunting specific deer as much as we are areas. Mm-hmm. So if I can identify a few of those for Corey, and I
think we got a lot of room. I think there's some new spots. We'll have day and a half to shed hunt Kansas. So,
dude, we're missing something behind Bernie's on that public track there, like closer.
There's
to where
a gap there.
Yeah. There's a gap there for sure. Those deer that are running back and forth between French's and the flat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll just access, and
we'll spend a lot of time down into.
Dude, there's more ground there too, to the west of the flat. Where they were saying that
100%.
monster was running around.
I think that monster was on the opposite of that road that goes down to where we would park by the state building for the flat. That deer was living across that road and just so happened was showing up on that side.
To the south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's living to the south and showing up on the north.
I don't know if I've ever seen those like giant ag tracks that you were talking about too. Remember this year, you're like, yeah, dude, there's standing corn and all of it still, like
down by the ants. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's easy. You drive right to it. In fact, you could shed hunt from that point in, then the other side.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, lots of things to take into consideration. But, I mean, now's when the preparation starts. I highly doubt any of these places that we're gonna put anything spring wise in for food plots or perennials. It'll all just be annual attacks come July, August.
Talked to Dad yesterday, and I've just been so busy I haven't really been able to think about food plots. But Dad says he wants to do the bean fields again, which is cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He's got time, and
knock yourself out.
Yeah, why not, man? So we're gonna put in like it's 8 or 10 acres of
and then are you gonna
soybeans.
just do brassicas over top of those, or are you just gonna leave
Maybe.
them?
I don't know. I tried that this year in Rays, and this brassica's just for whatever reason I can't grow brassicas in Rays plot. I don't know why. I've done the soil samples. I limed it, fertilized them, and everything. They just don't want to grow. Beans did phenomenally. I've had oats do phenomenally.
Phenomenally.
And just the brassicas don't work out there for whatever reason.
You think it's the deer pressure on them?
No, because the beans look great. Well, they're being browsed heavily, but I don't think it is. They don't germinate or they don't grow.
You put an exclosure cage out there?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing grows in the cage either?
Yeah, no, beans look phenomenal.
No, I mean like brassicas.
Yeah, no brassicas came up in them. And so in that sense, maybe they're competing with the beans.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah,
but I
mean,
thought,
those beans are heavy on that soil resource wise in terms of nutrients and stuff.
Yeah, it just didn't work out in that spot as good as I thought it would that year. It was also dry. We had another really dry year, so I got
a lot of plots to put in this year, a lot of deer grow to put out this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be something that, again, from a strategy standpoint, we're really gonna have to spend some time on, moving through.
Yeah, man, I gotta get my sprayer is probably I've been riding her hard and putting away wet year to year, and I try to take care of it, but eventually she's going to need some maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some hose clamps kind of come off.
Is that on a tractor or on the UTV?
I put it behind the Ranger.
Yeah, just a pole behind.
Those are awesome. Dude, I
need a new one.
If anybody out there is ever like shopping for a sprayer, or you're trying to upgrade from a backpack sprayer, they sell these ones that have like a single nozzle that like diffuses
like the
it.
shotgun sprayer.
Don't get that. That's no good.
You want the boom.
You need a boom.
Yeah.
You need a boom if you want to cover any kind of like width on that stuff.
Yep.
Ian, you keep peeing. It's making me have to pee, brother. Oh, okay. So yeah, I had one of those for a few years, and they just you can't get an even disbursement of that stuff because the ground is uneven.
How big's that boom on that thing? So like a 10-footer or bigger?
Yeah, maybe like 12.
Just more nozzles to take care of.
12 foot. Yeah, there's a couple more nozzles, but it's worked out really well for us, and that's the perfect amount of. It's a 60-gallon sprayer with like a 12-foot boom, and that works out almost perfect for big and small plots. And I do like 8 to 10 acres a year. Yeah,
I got to get a new one to pull behind the Ranger. That'll be a big one this year.
I don't know what brand mine is, but
I don't know what we're gonna do on that side yet. If we're gonna just make a sweep, we got to figure out if we're planning or if Bob's planning in Ohio.
Yeah. Well, we got to get up there first, and just
same with Kentucky.
Dude, he'll do it. I bet he'll do it.
Same with Illinois. I just want to get him the seed so he plants what we want him to plant.
Well, in the meantime, you got there's established clover and brassica plots. It's like that used to seem like it was the go-to, doesn't it? It's just like
brassica and clover.
Clover mix.
Yeah, which is still probably maybe add some winter wheat or oats or something.
I'll bet there's a couple sheds on that property.
There should be. That camera's dead too, huh? I have to walk that soon. Been meaning to walk it. Just haven't got there. Time.
One of these days, we'll get some time.
Time seems to be the fading resource at this point.
They'll come back.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, got brighter days to look forward to. Shed hunting, checking out some new leases, food plots, turkey hunting.
Yeah, dude. There's just seasons of life. We're putting in work right now to, get ahead on some stuff or just, get caught up. But I do think, and I was talking to my uncle about this yesterday. It's like, dude, when deer season finally does get here, or we get the opportunity to go out and shed hunt or do something, it's these tough times where we're really busting our butts and under a lot of stress in some cases that makes those times so awesome.
Oh, it's nice, man. I can't wait.
Can't have, sunny days without the rainy ones, or can't appreciate them anyways.
Can't wait. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. That's the beauty of being able to do this stuff all year. I mean, it's cool to get out in the stand and start hunting, but like the anticipation if you're just out there running a few cameras and hanging a stand in September and it's like, okay, October 1, let's go hunt. I don't know. I mean, that's fun, but like the rest of the year, like I got to have something like to build up to that, to know that I'm putting in the work that ultimately is going to lead to some reward come opening day or at least the beginning part of the season.
Yeah.
If you're not, and so shed hunting, food plots. I did take the chainsaw out, did some tree cutting, opened up some areas. Well, ice storm opened up some areas, so that was
on
nice
your property in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So you got
some more sunlight.
new property down there you can hunt.
Yeah, got some new property to hunt.
That's pretty cool.
Behind the house. Yeah.
Had it previously been a no?
Yes. So about
what changed?
200 acres.
Bake them a lemon cake or something?
No, they actually, when that ice storm came through, they couldn't get to their house because they live about 2 miles back in.
Oh, so you let them stay at your
They
place?
stayed at my cabin for about.
And that's what did it?
Yeah.
Did you ask him again, or he came around and he said, hey, you know what?
No, they told me. They said, like, because I said, I don't want, like, they were like, how much do we owe? I was like, I don't care. Just, like, you guys couldn't make it to your house. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
That's it. So they're like, yeah, go ahead. So it'll be interesting. That's, seems like it's been the honey hole, or at least where a lot of those bucks are holding up.
Or?
Nobody does.
Huh. Why was it a no previous? They just didn't want the disturbance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I got, which was fine. And I didn't pry at it. And so, yeah, now it seems like it's a yes. Which will be interesting. I think that's where most of the deer that I had seen had been living. Because it's big. It's a big bottom.
Almost seems like a setup. You ever see...
For what? For me to buy it?
What's that freaking movie? What's the bowling movie?
Kingpin.
In the beginning where he's like, this is a stick up. And he comes in and punches him in the face or whatever. Yeah. So he can get the rent forgiven or whatever.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I hope it's not that setup. No, I think they're good for it. But yeah, to impress them for it, And so it'll be interesting. I've no idea. I've never been on it. Haven't looked at it. Never been on it. Not sure what it'll be like. I have to assume from the maps it looks good. More area. I know there's big bucks in there. So they move a lot. In fact, I had I don't know if it was a 3-year-old or 2-year-old, probably a 3-year-old, like a pretty tall 8-point show up the other day, still holding. Never saw that deer before. Just cruised by one of my cameras for, 2 minutes. Never saw him again. It's weird how that, like, I think they're starting to move a little bit more after this kind of winter's let up. But again, man, it's like, geez, I thought I'd find this, a shed. Walked a lot.
I'm going to change it up here real quick. Total change of the subject
right,
here.
flip it.
I think it's okay. We're getting new bows this year.
We are getting new bows this year. We are.
Whether we buy them or we can figure out something with Hoyt is what we're going with.
Yep, we're going to work with Hoyt.
Yeah. So, and I have a Hoyt now that Steve gave me 4 or 5 years ago. It's a Hoyt Carbon Spider 30, and I upgraded that to 80-pound limbs because I'm a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ian's got 80-pound limbs too.
So, and you...
well, I shot a Carbon Spider, so I got one at the same time.
One. You sold it.
That's what
I gave it for plumbing work or something.
Drywall work.
Drywall.
But that's what I killed white whale with.
Oh, wow.
Killed white whale with that Carbon Spider.
What a great bow, man.
Yep. But yeah, so then gave that away, and I think I shot, and we've been back and forth between bows, and most recently I've been shooting Matthews, which is a great bow. I'm shooting a Triax. It's just heavy as hell. And I noticed that, especially when we're in North Dakota, that bow's heavy.
Dude, I don't know why, it's the Matthews thing. There's
a bit of and listen, it's weird because I feel like at one point in time,
I'm just an antagonist on it because
no, you're right, man.
They're great bows, but just people are so obsessed with them that it makes me just not want a part.
Well,
of it.
it's a weird culture now.
It's like a cult.
And
I've shot Matthews. I had a Matthews for a long period of time. So I'm one of you guys.
I feel like Matthews at one point in time, and no knock to them, right? They make great bows. The culture though was you guys, I'm representing the whitetail world here. I'm a whitetail bow hunter. Yeah. I shoot Matthews.
Well, dude, and
that was in the Adrenaline.
Represent them
Monster,
Donna Kenny Kiski,
Lee and
Tiffany. Yeah, these guys.
Yep. Michael and the guys on Bone Collector
shot Matthews.
No, I guess
I'm talking Matthews.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking Matthews.
Matthews, yes.
But
Yeah, so absolutely.
Did you know who it really was too? The big one for me was Stan and the boys.
Stan Potts. Yeah, they were
was
Matthews.
the show? Was it something
Stan
365?
Potts.
Whitetail?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Tom Miranda. Yeah, all those guys.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. They were catering to, which why wouldn't you? Like, whitetail is king. Listen, anytime on a stone road standpoint, right? Somebody says, hey, like, I really want to target the turkey hunters. And I'm like, listen, no. Like, whitetail's king.
Mm-hmm.
You got to dominate that market if you want to play in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, all of the sudden, in the last 3 years? Like, now it's like, if I don't hunt, like, freaking dull sheep in the mountains of Alaska, like, I'm not cool to shoot a Matthews.
It's
and
like
they
why?
Have
not turned their back, but kind of left whitetail hunters in the dust. Not really, but I mean the focus, or
I feel like the content has
promotion
gone that
has
way.
Been around, and I get it. It's more cinematic, part of the
but nobody does that. Like, how many people are out killing?
I think more and
bighorn
more
sheep,
us included. Like, we're doing our first mule deer hunt last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that are exploring that, and I get it. I'm not saying it's the wrong move, but I don't know.
It's a weird feeling. I mean, it kind of goes along, and again, no knock to these guys, but kind of goes along the whole Sitka and Kuyu and kind of, it's a different, and I get where they're going with it. It's very much, let's call it the 1%er of the hunter group, right? I mean, it's that high-end person who wants to hunt and spend money and do that stuff. Yeah. Meanwhile, I just want to kill whitetail bucks. Like,
isn't it funny how, dude, it's just like trucks. Like, please, I know nothing about trucks, but like, it's not like a Cummins diesel is better than a whatever, like a Ford or a Chevy. But like, guys are on those bandwagons, and it's
they'll be adamant about it.
They're on it, and it just is it's funny how it's kind of the same thing with
everybody.
bows.
It's brand loyalty. I mean, we have the same thing around camera. I've always been a performance driven guy, right? So the fact is, like, I talk about trucks. My dad only drove Fords. I drive Fords. I've never had any issues with a Ford, so like, why would I change? Not saying that people haven't, but like, that's just who I am. I think bows is the one thing, and you and I have had this discussion. Like, I've changed bows a lot, and I hate it.
Isn't it funny how, like, I know literally nothing about trucks. I'm like, here's the front door, here's the steering wheel.
You grab that Hoyt out of this.
Here's
case.
the steering wheel, and even for you to say, like, I drive Fords, like, I don't know why, but I'm like,
yeah,
like, I don't know.
Which I've loved. Like, I just bought a new F-250 because I love Fords.
It's an awesome looking truck. It's a sick truck. Like, it's an awesome truck,
and I'll run it.
There's no
to death
reason that I can explain to you why I feel that way.
Yeah, it's just the mindset, I think.
But if you said, "Well, I have a Toyota 4Runner," I'm like, "Oh, that's a good truck."
So we talked about Hoyt. So Hoyt sent us this bow. We were doing one of our partners on the Stone Road side, obviously, is Bone Collector. So Hoyt sent us this is an RX4, which, did we have ATA show last year? Yeah, we did.
No.
Right? In 2020?
No, they canceled it last year.
Did they? No.
They canceled it this year.
They canceled it this year.
Sorry.
So last year at ATA show, I think you and I shot this bow, and I was like, this is the bow. It's light, it's quiet, and it's fast.
How at ATA, dude, there's so much stuff going on. Like, we like to think that I've never not shot a bow at ATA that I was like, oh yeah, great bow, nice bow.
Yeah, I did on this one.
Yeah. It's really sharp. We've shot it since, and it's
And so this is the RX4, which this year we'll be shooting RX5, Bone Collector limbs, which obviously that's who we'll be supporting this year too. Sharp. Different bodies. This one's just in a real tree body. And we were shooting a bunch of content, but sharp bow, and I'm excited because I do think that think about Hoyt around Midwest Whitetail and Bill Winke. Think about Michael and the guys. Hoyt has, I think, always they do a ton with Cam, obviously, in that Western kind of adventure style of hunting, but they still are very, I feel like, core oriented in the whitetail world.
They haven't. Yeah, they've done a better job at not abandoning their roots to strive for this Western content that is relevant. But
and they've made some big changes this year too. I think Hoyt has gone away from their target archery side, where Matthews and those guys are still in it, and so they're really just focusing on good quality hunting bows at this point.
I always thought that was so bizarre. Like,
which first of all, I'm weak as hell, but like I couldn't do this with my Matthews. Like my shoulder would collapse.
Wow, dude, those carbon bows are just like, I don't. It's like an alien. like weapon. They're just so light and they're so fast.
Yeah.
And they're compact. I don't know if they were doing that before Matthews, but I know that's one thing that I really liked about that carbon spider is that it's 30 inches axle to axle. And what I will say, one thing I genuinely dislike about the Matthews bows is how big the cams are.
Well, I mean, I've had problems. So I've killed a lot of deer with that triax. I guess it was not this past year, but 2 years ago, I was hunting that giant or those giants in Columbus, and I was lowering my Matthews out of the tree, and it just a little bit of wind just came and like hit it against the tree, and it boom, came off of the cam. String came off the cam, and it was like I had to find a archery shop in Columbus, miss out on a hunt, get it fixed, just to go back out. And it's because the cams are as big as my head, and when you draw on full draw on those Matthews and those cams, like I see that cam lean.
It's an issue.
It's significant.
They get a lot of cam lean, and they get, I think they're just exposed. Like
I'm walking through the woods with my bow.
More opportunity to get those things jacked up.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it. I mean, like I said, we've worked with Hoyt a lot in the past through Michael and Bone Collector, and it was a natural fit. I think something that you and I talked about, when we were even discussing about Hunter is like, that's the bow that we want to shoot. The limbs to support Bone Collector. They're an awesome looking bow. They're fast. They're quiet. They're light. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, it's. And I talk crap on Matthews, but like, I don't know. I'm not the authority to say this, but like I've shot bows across the board. I've shot the Bears, the PSEs,
shot Prime,
your Bowtechs, your Primes. Like, dude, these are the two elite bow companies for a reason. Like
for sure,
Matthews and Hoyt make.
Yeah, dude, Matthews makes a great bow. I mean, we're not knocking
the
that.
best shooting bows, hands down. Like, Bowtech had a few good years. PSE had a
few
good
years. Bowtech had
a
lot of good years. I mean, back in the day, that was, I thought, the bow that was going to come out and really become one of the elites was Bowtech because their innovation around it. They were and still are, they were very speed focused. And I think that drove them maybe a little bit away from the accuracy standpoint, which is, listen, the bow can be as fast as it can be. If I can't hit the broadside of a barn with it, it doesn't make. And they're the first ones who came out with those cams that were as big as our heads.
Really?
They were giant. I think it was like, I forget, RPM or something like that.
My dad is still shooting a Bowtech Guardian,
which is when they were really starting to pick up the pace and be a competitor in the market. I
think he's had it to the bow shop in like 5 years. It's got like loose screws on it.
I mean, listen, it's a liability. You can kill deer with any. My dad, for the longest time, shot a Bear whitetail, which was a wooden compound bow that he had in camo duct tape, shooting fingers. Remember we were talking about this? My dad shooting fingers on a compound bow, and I watched him kill from across the field. I've watched him kill several bucks with that, and then I gave him a Prime that I had shot for a long time, and that was like his first. That's the first time he was shooting a release. He was like 55 years old, and I was like, "Hey, you got to shoot an archery release." He's like, "So I can't use my fingers for this?"
Those were good bows too, man. We shot those Primes for a while, and
I've killed deer with. I mean, you can kill a deer with any bow. I've killed bucks pretty much with every bow that I've ever had.
Those Primes were insanely accurate. That was one of the
they were long axle to axle. That was one of them.
They were slow.
They were slower.
They were slow, which is the main reason that I wanted to switch is because I was trying to get longer yardage.
Well, and listen, you're shooting a heavy arrow too. Like we say they're slow. They're not.
Oh, dude, they started promoting. This is, and I have like an issue with this, I guess, is they started promoting the same year that we started shooting those. I started shooting a Prime. Midwest Whitetail and Easton and those guys started promoting the full metal jacket.
And FOC became a thing.
No, that was after
because
dude, that full metal jacket is not a good arrow for FOC. It's just heavy.
The
whole thing is heavy.
Yeah,
and it's
like 11.6 or something.
It's 11.6. Yeah, grains per inch.
inch.
And I bought in because I didn't know anything about arrows at that point. I was like, well,
heavier the arrow.
Bill's shooting it, heavy arrow. Yeah, it makes sense. And so I was shooting the Prime, 70 pounds, not that fast of a bow to begin with now a super heavy arrow, and I'm trying to shoot out past 60 yards, and like they're lobbing them at this point. And so the refinement ever since then has been to, obviously shoot a faster bow, heavier weight, which I trained for.
Yep, forward.
And then different arrow build that has I mean, dude, these are like opposite ends of the spectrum, I think. I went from shooting an Easton full metal jacket at 11.6 grains per inch, like shaft to shaft, or end to end, to a Victory VAP 250, which is a micro diameter arrow.
Yeah, what are those, 8.6 or something, or even
They're
lighter?
Light, yeah. Super. The whole arrow is super light, and I stack it. I put it at the very front. I've got an Ethics Archery outsert that weighs 130 grains or something like that, plus
100 grain broadhead.
So the overall weight of the arrow has increased, not a lot, but at the same time, I've shifted all that weight to the front, and it's way stiffer, and I'm shooting a way faster, heavier pulling bow. And I've got a sweet.
It's such a weird kind of system as we started to evolve on that, because, you know, it was Ethics and Victory giving us the Victory outserts on that side. At the same time, Bone Collector and T-Bone, I remember having that conversation with T-Bone about FOC. Because, he's like, I glue like steel shot into the back of my... Dude, first of all, I mean, T-Bone's a funny guy. The dude knows bows. He knows archery. He's been a tournament shooter for a long time. You know, he shoots rock solid, right? And so the moment you pique his interest around FOC, he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, you don't want that 12 grain per inch arrow across. He's like, you want light arrows, but you want heavy forward, and here's the balance that you find to get to your FOC in this range.
I think that that Easton full metal jacket was kind of the stepping stone for people to start to understand that stuff, because it was a step in the right direction in getting people to be okay shooting heavier arrows again, you know, like they had back in the day, because that's what's getting you the momentum. But it didn't have the technology of FOC, you know, built in.
Yeah, I mean, it was all based on the momentum aspect of like weight of arrow, speed of bow, better momentum, better passer, but that's not the case, right? FOC is really where the focus is to be able to drive that deeper penetration. And especially as we're starting to talk about, if we're shooting expandables and things with large cutting diameters, you know, the moment that broadhead hits, you're losing energy. So that FOC is what's carrying that thing through the animal, through a shoulder blade, through a pass through. Yep. You know, those are the things that we have learned versus, you know, I know guys who were shooting fast, and I think you and I probably were doing, we were shooting fast Easton arrows at one point in time with 100 grain on it. I mean, that thing was humming.
Carbon Express.
Yeah, but it would hit that deer, basically bounce off.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
I was shooting like, you know, 295 feet per second with like my old Matthews or something. It was everybody shot these at some point. It was just like the Maxima Express Maxima Reds or Blues. I don't think there was actually a difference. Yeah. With your 100-pound tip, and it's zipping at this deer, and then it's like just stops. Or it makes it like half of the way through.
Yeah, I mean, no
especially
passer.
With like at the time they were really pushing the Rage 2 blades and stuff, which I still think is a good broadhead.
No passer.
You can't shoot it with that arrow setup.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think as people start to, you know, there's a lot of gimmicks out there. You know, understand what you're shooting. You know, if you have a slower bow, think about FOC for penetration, not speed entirely, right? And that's the stuff that's just misconceptions out there. Like, dude, I don't care. Like some of these crossbows now are shooting 450 feet per second. Yep. It's like, cool, I'm going to shoot that thing might explode when I shoot a light arrow out of that thing. I need that thing to be heavy, so when it hits, it carries that momentum through the deer and gives me a pass through, not that it hits the shoulder and just instantly explodes. Yeah. Right? And people don't understand that. They just think speed.
Yeah, I mean, too much
That's
of anything
not the point.
Too much of anything is not always good.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the big thing, but obviously these guys, Hoyt makes an awesome bow. We'll shoot RX5s this year, which I'm excited about.
I'm going rear stab this year.
Are you?
I just think it's cool.
Reach out. It's just the cool thing to do.
I just seen cool people doing it.
So you think I'm gonna shoot a 3-foot front stave.
Well, also I think the thing that's leading me down that road is I like shooting with my quiver on now.
Do you? Man, I can't do it.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't like taking it off all the time.
Yeah.
And
I hate
here's how I'm reverse engineering this. Because I didn't want to take it off on the mule deer hunt.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. It's not a problem to take it off in a tree stand.
Yeah. We're moving.
I didn't want to have to take it off.
Most of the time we're moving with an arrow not knocked.
I didn't want to have to take it off while I was mule deer hunting. So I started shooting with it, realized that I could. fine, perfectly. I was like, man, I'm shooting great. The only thing I notice is my bow wants to tip a little bit in the direction.
Just a little weight.
Yeah, because I'm shooting heavy arrows, and I got 3 or 4 of them in that quiver. And so I think that will help. Yeah. That'll help me just have better stability.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think we talked about sights, whether we're going to shoot, single pins or multi-pins. I got on the single pins, I don't know, 4 years ago. Haven't looked back since.
Did I put you on those, or did you put me on those?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd always been a multi-pin.
Me too.
But I remember going to single pin. And hell, man, I don't change. Well, North Dakota was one that we obviously started shooting longer distances. But most of the time in the tree stand, my pin's sitting on 20 or 25, and I'm not changing it. And I'm killing anything that's coming within 30 yards of that. And that's the cool thing about these bows, too, regardless of weight, is like if I really had to, I could have that pin sitting on 20, aim an inch high at 30, and still kill that deer just fine. Like, you don't have to think about that stuff. So I mean that'll be one that we looked at this year. Yeah, I mean I went to a longer stabilizer this year on the front, just slightly. I think that helped at least. But then again, that Matthews is heavy. That's why I had to do it.
Well, let's save the rest of that. We'll do another podcast with the whole bow setups. Kind of once we get those in hand and have a better idea of what we're gonna.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Eldridge on.
Build out on each of those. Would be sweet to have him on. And
let it go from there. Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. We've got a lot of things to look forward to this year, and thankful to have some of these guys kind of believe in what we're doing here, and backing us and on a sponsorship side and supporting us, and we're going to produce a ton of content for these guys, all the partners, but we're going to use this stuff anyways. We might as well at least share what we're using, and to each their own. Just because we're saying that this is what we're shooting doesn't mean that's what you need to, but there's reasons that we're making these strategic.
Sure would be cooler if you did.
Sure would be cooler if you did. Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why we're picking the stuff that we're picking, because we go through some equipment, that's for sure. And, whether it's cell cameras or bows or arrows or broadheads, ultimately, we're going to land on the stuff that, makes us the most successful, not necessarily who's paying us the dollars.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, man, a good podcast, and we appreciate everybody listening. This was episode, 8, Ian? Holy cow, man. Double digits within sight.
I've enjoyed talking to you, man. It's with all the...
you act like we don't talk.
Well, we're busy, dude.
I know.
It's nice to take time, at least once a week is how often we're doing this podcast, to just, forget everything else for 2-3 hours here and have a conversation about deer hunting.
I think we're going to have our normal podcast next week, be episode 9. First double digit, episode 10... We're going to be on the road. So I don't know if we do a roadie podcast.
Ian doesn't seem to think we can handle it.
Easy.
So we'll figure it out.
What confidence.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
I'd love to do a live from the road.
That would be fun. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll do something.
But appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate the support so far, and look forward to hearing you back on the next HUNTR podcast.
Take me